All right, everybody. When life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Danny Shard is not able to be with us this morning. We just found that out a little bit of time ago. We had 5 great topics to talk about between Brian and Danny and I. We have special guests lined up for Thursday and Friday, but today we are left saying, what do? We're going to make it the best day ever, the best Wednesday, the best hump day, because Brian Linky is going to share with us the 7 rules of life. So not the typical high 5 today. Well, let's just call it the high 7, because that is how we roll in the high 5.
The time has come, the questions are said, opinions had, discussions are led, a show about nothing and everything, it's all the same. We've got sports, entertainment, sales, and marketing. It's time for the high 5. We've got it all covered. It's time for the high 5. We've got it all covered, yeah. The high 5.
All right, everybody, the High 5 is fully up and running, and well, it is not just me on this High 5 channel as we're streaming across the world and to all of our partners and all the people who are just watching because, well, this is great content. I have the man, the myth, the legend, the man who comes from Boca Raton. He owns all of Florida. He owns all of the West Coast. Every wine, vineyard in the world knows who this man is. When he walks in, people bow. That is because he is the man who is known as Brian Linky. Brian, how are you today?
Yeah, let me tell you something. After that introduction, I'm better than I've ever been. Honestly, I appreciate that.
Well, today we know that Danny's not going to be able to be with us, and so we quickly pivoted in the last 30 minutes. I created some new slides. You and I talked, and I've been sitting on this audio because I haven't known quite how to use it, but it was an amazing conversation in a dining room in Boston. And full disclosure, right? I've never shared this on the live, but I have tested positive for having the antibodies and got terribly sick after that trip to Boston. And am now known that I did catch COVID-19. And so just before I had those coming through, we sat down at a meal and had a wonderful time talking about, we had breakfast and we just talked about the 7 rules of Brian Linky. So let's set this up a little bit, Brian. Can you tell me, how did you come up with these rules, and kind of why, as we walk through them, why they have developed and evolved and become the mantra that they are for you?
Well, it's a good question. I'm not really sure I know the answer. I will tell you that during my sales career, which obviously started back in 1986, 87. Through the years, I just kind of came up with a couple sayings in some drinking establishments, some restaurants, and the people that I was with, they're like, man, that's a great idea. Yeah, we need to write that down. You need to write that down. And a couple of them came from a movie back in the 80s, and I'll go through that here in a little bit. And Matt Hoskins had a couple of ideas, and we put one of them into play. And I remember the first time I ever met Danny Shard, he made me write them down so he could put them on his wall in his office. So I don't know, it just kind of just snowballed into because there's obviously more than 7 rules. But as for a salesperson, I think a lot of these things pertain, and a lot of them really are funny. They're tongue in cheek. You take it for what it's worth, but they're fun to talk about.
All right, so we're going to have some fun doing this today. Danny's not with us, and I can tell the internet gremlins are trying to make this message not go out. So we're going to fight through this. I heard every word you said, but I'm only seeing you move about every 15th frame, which just, it's stop motion. So with Brian Linky. So, all right, so we're going to go right to number 1. Number 1 is what, Brian Linky?
Here's the thing. Okay. Number 1 is, it's just not, and again, I'm trying to help our partners as far as like some of the things to do and not to do. But rule number 1 pertains to everything in life. And, it's don't panic. And excuse me, if people can just live by that rule, and trust me, it is difficult to do at times, especially during this time, right? I mean, you're laying in bed, you're like, how am I gonna, pay the mortgage? How am I gonna put food on the table? How am I gonna, but if you take a step back, you look at the whole situation, You don't panic. Somehow, some way, you'll get through it. But by panicking, it doesn't do anyone any good, and it drives people that are closest to you crazy, and it's just the wrong thing to do. Now we're having internet issues, Nate. I can't hear you.
There we go. All right, you should be able to hear me. That was actually my fault. I coughed and I muted myself, and then I forgot to unmute myself. All right, so these are times for sure that we can panic. I mean, this is, if there's ever a time that more people are in the panic mode, it is now. And I think a lot of it is just we have to take a deep breath, settle ourselves, and go to a place to like kind of regroup, however that is. For those who are prayer, meditation, go to your happy place, whether that's a golf course or whatever that is, to reset yourself. What do you do when because we all get in places where we start to panic and we have to step away and regroup. What do you do, Brian, to do that so you don't panic?
Well, I rely on others. I've got a lot of really good people. I've surrounded myself with a lot of really good people, family, friends, and I'll just give you an example. I went down to Tallahassee, Florida, with Danny Shard, his brother Brian, and Sean Feehan from Cash Bowie, and great trip. We had an unbelievable time. I took him for a tour of the university, and we went to the basketball game. And I ended up I lost my phone. And for anybody who's lost their phone, it's a panic situation, right? And for the entire game, I mean, it was just bad. And so the game was over, went out, and those guys were trying to keep me at bay, and just decided, okay, you know what, when I get back, I'm just going to deal with the situation. What happened was Danny, for some reason, decided to call my phone, and somebody actually answered it, because we had been calling it the whole time, and it was one of the security guys at the basketball arena at the Donald L. Tucker Center in Tallahassee. And we drove over there about midnight, and the guy had the phone, and I gave him $100 bill. And it's just one of those things that I panicked for no reason, right? I panicked I broke my own rule. Danny let me know about it, I don't know, 3,000-4,000 times. And but yeah, I took a step back, and somehow, some way, it worked itself out.
It does, and just we're all to make it clear, we're all going to have those moments where we go and we just can't believe what's going on. But we got to. What I'm hearing from you, Brian, is we got to surround ourselves with people that are going to settle ourselves. So who you choose as a spouse or a significant other, who you choose as your friends, how you choose to let people speak into your life will help you in those situations where panic is completely, probably even acceptable, but is not the right reaction for helping you be the most successful in anything in life, and especially if you're living the sales game.
That's a great point. And again, I don't mean to cut you off, but when you surround yourself, with good people, good things happen. And I honestly believe today, I mean, I have a network of people that I could reach out to in just about any situation, and they would help me. And it's a great feeling. And if I stop and think about it a little bit more, obviously I wouldn't have, because again, it was just a phone, right? But at the time, it seemed like it was like a life or death situation. How am I going to get on the plane? My ticket, and there was like a whole bunch of different things. And but again, it worked itself out.
It is really. I just love that you've always started this out with the first rule: don't panic, and that's because it's our response to the situations around us, and that happens every day. Danny calls me and says he can't be on, and we go live every day right around 10 a.m., and you just have to choose. You're like, okay, that's fine. We're going to figure it out. And in about 30 seconds, it's like, hey, been wanting to have this conversation about the 7 rules of Brian. I call Brian up. Brian's like, okay, we do it. I throw 7 slides together really quickly, try to make sure there are no typos, and we move on. And you just you have to learn that and have people around you that are speaking in it. I know some of us are better than others at that. And if you are a person that crisis and panic are overwhelming for you, it's making sure you make the decisions beforehand. Because Brian, do you agree with this? That dealing with panic it's how you plan beforehand, I mean, before you even know or anything happens, is going to make you better at dealing with panic and don't panicking than just in the situation. You can't wait till the situation happens.
Definitely a mindset. It's definitely something that you have to, just instill in your life. And again, it sounds easy. It's definitely not. And we're living in a time right now where I know there's a lot of people out there that are breaking rule number one right now. And if I have any advice, again, what's the slogan? We'll get through this together, right? So, and we will.
Yep. All right, on to number two. Rule number two is
rule number two. Again, I've been a salesperson my whole life, and this came out of a movie. And for any of our partners that are listening, and they can say, or people can tell me whatever they want, but rule number two is don't underestimate the other guy's greed. Right. And the reason that came out of the movie Scarface, which I saw in the theater, so I'm showing you my age. But in the sales game, we are it's a money thing, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. We're not selling something just to say we sold something. We're selling something to make money, and let's call it what it is. And there's somebody else out there that's competing against you. So if you're going to go underestimate, your opponent or the other guy, you're going to lose. So rule number two is don't underestimate the other guy's greed.
So I think about this the other day. We had a question. We were talking about how important it was to research your competitors, and your competitors sometimes are corporations and people. A lot of times it's people, and it's the other person who's selling a similar or identical solution to you, and what their willingness to do. And you have to put yourself in their shoes and think what they're going to do. Brian, how do you see? Don't underestimate the other person's greed. How do you size up your competition when you're in a sales situation to identify what level and what they might do to get that sale?
I just, again, I'm an old school guy, and the answer to that question is I really don't worry a whole lot about it. I know that, if I go and I work harder than the other guy, and I'm more genuine with my customers and my merchants than the other guy, and I develop a better relationship than the other guy, then I'm going to win most of the time. Again, you're not going to win all the time, but you're going to win most of the time. And we're all greedy, right? This is a sales business. I mean, we can say whatever we want, and we can make it sound fluffier than it is. But when this thing is over and we can get back out on the street, I have a feeling that our partners are going to be as hungry and as greedy. And what did Gordon Gekko say on the movie Wall Street? Right, greed is good, right? And again, that's that to me, that's just part of sales. And
it's part of the mindset and understanding everyone around you is all going for the win. And if you're not going for them, why play the game? And that's whether it's a game of business or the game of life. And now it doesn't mean that we cause harm or do, in all things do good and, look to play a part in the society. But you certainly are looking at the other people and going, look, especially now, there are people in this that are not in this industry. So just yesterday, I was talking to one of our partners. It'll be a video in our virtual roadshow next week, talking about their story. And he shared to me, he said, I got into this business when I was a contractor and business dried up in 2008. And then in the next 12 years, he's built this into he's got a great portfolio, a wonderful business. And I asked him what made the difference for him is because of his hunger and his drive. And let me tell you right now, if you've been in this business for a while or whatever business you are in, and if you don't realize that there are people that are going to get into your industry, into your lane, start and follow after you, that are more hungry and more driven because of what's happened to them and what situation. And this is where character is driven and shown when you are down and out and on the mat and how you get back up. And we're going to see that. So don't underestimate your greed. What do you think, Brian?
Absolutely. And again, I know Jen Sales is listening to this, and, we coach a basketball team, or two of them actually together. And, and I tell the kids all the time, there's somebody right now who wasn't very good in the fourth grade or the fifth grade or even the sixth grade, that's out in their driveway working harder than you are, and don't be surprised if when you get back into the 7th, 8th, even the 9th grade, that person has passed you. So never underestimate the other guy's grade.
Yep. All right, moving on to number 3. The rule number 3 for Brian is?
Well, rule number 3, and again, we'll probably go right past this, but again, it comes out from the movie Scarface, but and it pertained more, I think, in the 80s and early 90s. But it's don't get high on your own supply, and I don't think we need to explain that. I think it's just what it is.
Well, the best salespeople are often drug dealers. Let's be honest; they know what to do, and the drug dealers are the people often who don't actually take the drugs because they realize how bad it is for you. And so, hopefully, you're selling a product you believe in, that you know is good, and just do it. But at the end of the day, your ego is one of the greatest obstacles to your ultimate success. And humility mixed with understanding the greed of your neighbor, these two really go together in my mind, because they make us be able to help us, understand that what drives us needs to not get in the way of us, and we can stumble on our own when we suddenly if we're high on our supply, our head gets blown and we're too I'm all that. You're going to get beaten. And somebody's going to get past you. And don't ever underestimate the person next to you, and don't ever read your own headlines, right? I mean, that's one of the worst things that happens to new professional players or new college players, Brian, when they're in the league for the first time, or and they see that first headline, or they have that first thing. They can't read their headlines. They can't get high on their own supply. They got to make sure they just keep driving and keep that energy and keep innovating and whatever it is in your role to do it, or you're going to see a little dip. You're not going to be as successful.
Man, let me tell you something. I'm 57 years old, and I've been living by that rule for a long, long time. I've never heard anybody put the spin on it like that. But absolutely, I love it. Absolutely, what you just said. And we'll move on to the next one.
All right. So this next one, hopefully, we've all done today. I know I have, and it is
rule number 4 is take a shower. And I know people are laughing right now at that. And this rule comes from the CEO or the founder of our company, the president of our company, Matt Hoskins. And he and I were out over at his old house, and he was getting I can't remember what it was. It was like a washer and dryer delivered. And the guys walked by us, and you could tell that they hadn't showered in a long, long time. And he looked at me and he's like, rule number 4. Take a shower. So I'll give Matt Hoskins all the credit in the world for that one.
Well, I think I love it because there are things in your life. I forget the general that says this, but he says in a commencement speech, I've heard it lots of times, clipped all over the place. Every day you should make your bed, because then you've accomplished the first task of your day, and you're going to accomplish something. And take a shower, to have some pride in yourself. And I realize there's some people that are living right now, and they're absolutely growing the hair out, probably not taking as many showers. And but for me, the shower always is the first thing. And maybe it's something else in your life, but there are things in your life that if you don't do them, if you don't put them in place, if the organization of that is not there, you're not going to be all that you can be. And this is all about becoming more successful, making sure that you are the best at what you are, what you do every day. And sometimes you just got to take a shower, have some respect for yourself. Do it.
Well, obviously it's a little bit tongue in cheek, really, take a shower, but you're right, Nate. You get up, you make your bed. I mean, if you're staying in your pajamas all day, and you're not taking care of yourself hygiene wise, and you're not eating well, and you're not exercising, again, somebody's passing you.
Yep.
I can promise you.
Yep. All right. This one is specifically more on for salespeople or anyone who's doing it. But what is it, Brian?
Rule number 5 is don't sell price. And this rule comes in, because I was just tired of dealing with people, not only in this industry, but a lot of industry. Well, this guy's cheaper than me, and this guy, he's not going to pay that. And, I just got tired of hearing it. And, again, the way I sell, my whole life is based on relationships. And, I think of more of our agents and more salespeople in general. would rely on something other than price. Because if all you're doing, because we're not the cheapest, right? We're not the most, you want to come with PayProTec, we're not the cheap. We don't want to be the cheapest. And, if that's what you're looking for, we're probably the wrong place. And, again, I'm not sure I'm walking into to my merchant and leading with that, but, we're a quality over anything. And, we rely on that with the people that we have. And don't sell price means, get out there and develop relationships with people. And again, I think you'll sell more.
Well, and at the end of the day, the selling on price, the only result is no profit eventually. Because if everybody just keeps undercutting, and no matter what industry you're in, eventually there's no more profit. Because there is a thing that we need to have in any business, and that's margin. And you've got to have the ability to buy something for one price or acquire something for one price and put it out for a higher price. And if you're not doing those two, then you're not going to succeed. And we're seeing there are people in the payments industry that always are doing a market grab, and they'll come in and they'll be like, man, I got this account. What a great account. And 6 months later, they're like, holy crud, I don't make any money on this thing. I'm losing money every month because they went so hard on price. And so making sure you're not selling on that, to me, that is a differentiator in our industry of a good salesperson and a bad salesperson, because if they have to sell on price, they're not very good. And ultimately, in the long term, they may have some short-term success, but in the long term, if this is going to be their career, I don't see them thriving, because they're going to have to, they're the ones who are going to get left behind, and they're selling something that is a commodity and eventually just goes away.
Right. Well, and Danny Shar talks about it all the time. Get it to where your merchant, you're sticky. Right, he uses that word all the time, sticky with your merchant. And PayProTec has done a nice job. I mean, we our POS division, the cash discount program that we have, the branding, the white label program that we have. Again, those are things that just make it a little bit stickier. And if you're going to go in there and just shoot price right away, you're right. You're going to be working harder and not smarter.
Yep. All right, time for the next one, and that is
rule number 6. And again, this comes from let me just tell you so rule number 6 is don't argue with yes. And I know everyone's like scratching their head thinking about this, but it happens all the time in your personal life, in your business life. You'll say something to someone, and you'll agree with them, and you're telling them yes, or they're telling you yes, and they're agreeing with you, and all you're doing is continuing to try to sell them. They've already said yes, but rather than listening to what they're saying, you're still trying to sell them. Okay, and that's a huge mistake. They've already said yes. You just didn't hear it, because you're talking too much rather than listening. So rule number 6 is don't argue with yes. And, if you think about some of the conversations, even in your personal life, where your spouse or your girlfriend or your boyfriend, has already agreed, and you're continuing to sell them, there's just no reason for it. So rule number 6 is don't argue with yes.
So, Brian, on that, when you're in a situation, how have you caught yourself arguing with yes, overselling, maybe talking too much? And how do you rebound from that when you get into a situation you're like, oh, crud, I've gone too far. Now I've opened up the Pandora's box. Is there a way to rebound from that?
Well, a lot of times, that's a great question. A lot of times, and I used to be really bad at it because, and I used to joke with people that, the way I sell is I just wear people down to a nub until they can't take it anymore. Well, times have changed a little bit, and people don't want to hear, the babbling over and over and over again. And again, I'm as guilty as anybody that's listening or watching this call is, you catch yourself because the reaction of the person on the other line, or the reaction of the person that you're talking to is they're trying to rush you out of there. Hey, I got to go. And that way, when people start doing that, you're like, man, am I talking too much? and normally you are. If you think you are, you are.
Yep.
So rule number 6 is definitely don't argue with yes.
You got to read the room, because if you're missing that, and for some people it's easier than others, but it kind of goes back to don't be high on your own supply, be high in your ego. Don't take yourself too seriously. And that ties really into this one too, because if you're not reading the room correctly and you're not whoops, that didn't go work. I was trying to get it. Let me go. There we go. All right. That's what I was looking for. What is rule number 7, Brian? I was trying a really cool transition. And I screwed it up. It was so close to working well, and I just didn't get it. All right, yours.
No, it was good, Nate. I mean, everybody, bobbles a ball every once in a while. So rule number 7, and Danny Shard and I came up with this one, and it's again, in this world that we live in, this crazy world, crazy people. Rule number 7 is just be a normal person. And what I mean by that, and people can say, what they want about me or Danny or you, Nate, or Matt Hoskins or Jen Sales or Pamela Bailey or, anybody. We're all our own person, right? We're all our own personality. We all have our flaws, but in the end, if you can just step back, again, read the room and be a normal person. And I'm not sure there needs to be any more of an explanation than that.
Yeah. Well, and it's the self-awareness to understand who you are and be that person. And it doesn't mean we stop improving. We're all improving. And if we're not a better person a year from now than we are now, then we're not going to be, fulfilling. And so we all have things that we're working on, but don't try to be somebody you're not. And I see this so much in our industry where people are looking and saying, oh, I want to be like that person, or I want to sell like that person, or I want to have that or this. And when you start having that aspirational energy, it's not bad to have dreams and goals, but it's certainly when you're trying to be somebody that you are not, or trying to take in and be and walk in someone else's shoes. If you're going to do that out of empathy, great. But if you're going to do it out of trying to become them, when really be your own person. And Brian, I'm sure in the years of success that you've had, you've seen a lot of people, fall flat in their face because they're trying to copy someone that it's not copyable for them. It's not in their personality. It's not in their wheelhouse, and it wasn't how they were created.
Right. Well, again, people are. People don't want to be, just bothered over and over and over again and pushed. And, again, like you said, Nate, just read the room, be yourself. Not everybody's going to like you. You don't want everybody to like you. I mean, as much as I do, and I tell myself, sometimes my feelings get hurt when people don't like me, but you know what? In the end, it's like, okay, you're not going to hit it off with everybody. But if you can just take a step back and just be who you are, like you said, and just be a normal person, your life will somehow work its way out, and you'll end up being successful. That's just how it happens.
Yep. Well, this has been fun. All right, let's do a quick review before we set up our special edition of the High Five, where the High Five becomes the 7 rules of Brian Linky. Brian, let's walk through them again. Number 1.
Don't panic.
Number 2.
Don't underestimate the other guy's greed.
Number 3.
Don't get high on your own supply.
Said only like a guy who grew up in the 70s. Number 4.
Take a shower.
Oh, thank goodness you did, because that would be difficult, even though I'm 2 hours away. Number 5.
Don't sell price.
Just don't. Yeah, it's not going to work out. All right, number 6.
Don't argue with yes.
And number 7.
Be a normal person.
Well, for the last few minutes, you've been joining us as normal people. Bradley Alton was just saying here, very good points. Every once in a while, even sales veterans can fall into bad habits if they don't watch themselves. And he said,
let me just talk about Bradley Alton for 1 second.
All right.
Bradley
There we go.
Bradley Alton is a guy who who for years, well, I don't know about years, but I know a couple, 3 years, he was out there selling a lot of really small accounts, and he was in a pricing war all the time. He would call in, can we do this? Can we do that? And Bradley Alton reinvented himself. And he's going for a lot of POS deals. He's out there, getting entrenched with his merchants, and it's paying off for him. And he took a step back, him and Bruce Weitzel, and just decided that it just wasn't, to deal with these accounts that weren't making him any money because, they were not only did they not process a lot, but he was in a pricing war, and he just didn't have a niche. And again, he reinvented himself, and he's one of our top guys.
Yep. All right, so as we close out, we bring up a little music here as we close out our day. It's been a wonderful Wednesday. The 7 rules, it's about living by values. It's about becoming a better person every day. It's about making sure that you're observing in life that you're going to become the best version of yourself, and that starts with today. How much fun is that today we get a whole new opportunity to make that, to do that the way, to redo and recreate every day. It's not just because of the crisis. It's a day to wake up and say, okay, let's make this the best day ever, and I hope that's going to do it for you. Brian, as we close out, as we get excited to go into the rest of the week, what are some of the things that you want to impart on our incredible audience?
Well, again, in order to succeed in sales, you have to have confidence in yourself, confidence in the company that you work for, confidence in the products that you sell. So just stay confident, be confident, and somehow, some way, things will work out.
All right, and with that, it's time to close out. We'll see you guys here soon. Everybody, have a wonderful Wednesday. It's Hump Day. Tomorrow, we're going to have Jen Sales with us. Danny Shard should be back. And can you believe it, on Friday, the CEO of Hot Sauce, Mr. Kai Su, will be joining us on the High Five. The